hard to get things together at this time in the afternoon, so I'm glad that everybody's here and that we have more than a quorum, which is unusual the way things have been going in the past few meetings. So welcome back. I know it's end of October, but it's only the beginning of our schedule this year. And uh, I know we have three new members that are joining us for the first time officially for a meeting. And so we have Neil, and I'm going to go around in a few minutes for everybody to say hello. But Neil's the current supervisor at Town of New Paltz, where he's responsible for the physical and managerial oversight of the town and all the operations, community outreach, coordinating with local and state organizations. And in case you didn't know it, he's also the head of the complaint department for New Paltz. So anybody has any complaints, they know who to contact, and it keeps him very busy and on his toes. And let's see, I have Jeff here also. Jeff is a new member, and Jeff has held both business and not-for-profit management positions. I was executive director of the LBTQ Community Center in Kingston, just around the corner. I went by there on a daily basis, and so I want to welcome you as well, Jeff. And then we have Jordan. Jordan Hennicks is a voting member, as his status as president of the Student Association. He's a voting member of our council, and he's a major in political science, and he hails from Manhattan. And they're not going to change it to Manhattan. I think it's going to continue to be Manhattan. And so welcome. And I don't know whether we should start from the top of the picture to say hello, but why don't we just go around the horn since it's the first meeting. And Barb, maybe you could introduce yourself, and then we'll go next to President Christian. Okay? Just
all right. Thank you. And good afternoon, everyone. I'm Barbara Lyman, and I'm the interim provost and vice president for academic affairs.
Thank you. And we all know by sight reputation, which is wonderful, of President Christian. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. And Eleanor?
I'm very glad to be with all of you.
Thank you. She's a longtime member. And Erica is another Kingston native, excuse me, Kingston neighbor of mine. How are you doing, Erica? I haven't seen you on the street in a while.
Hi, everyone. Yes, I'm Erica Marks, Vice President for Development and Alumni Relations, and I do live uptown Kingston in the house that is currently under construction.
That's the process.
Construction.
And Jeff?
Hi, everybody. Jeff Gant, Vice President for Enrollment Management.
Thank you. And Jeff, you just popped in next. Hello.
Our other Jeff. Jeff Rindler. Yeah.
My order is different.
You just moved. Your box just moved in on my screen.
Happens a lot. Jeff Rindler Jordan, happy to be here and participate in the council.
Okay. And Jordan, could you tell us a little bit about yourself? It's your first meeting here.
You want to know something? Fun fact, the order that you called everyone in so far is actually the order of my screen. I'm like, I wonder if that's anyone else's, but then someone said like, oh no, it's not on my screen. I'm like, I get that privilege. But I'm the Student Association president. This is my 4th year here at SUNY New Paltz, and I'm excited to be here.
Great, and we're glad to have you. And Julie?
I'm Julie Noble. I'm a member of the College Council, and I am the Sustainability Coordinator for the City of Kingston.
Thank you. And Megan, you're a new face to me, and welcome. I know we're going to hear from you later, and it's always exciting to hear about things on campus. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, that's great. I'm Megan Smaler. I'm the Director of Facilities Design and Construction, and I'm stepping in for our Assistant Vice President of Facilities Management, John Shoup, who is about to retire. So I'm going to do the construction update for everybody today. Thank you.
Michelle?
Hi, everybody. I'm Michelle Halstead, the Vice President for Administration and Finance.
Thank you. We'll hear from you later. Neil?
Hi, Neil Battez. I'm really excited to be part of this group. I'm a big fan of SUNY and the town working together, and I'm hoping that I can use my position as supervisor and a member of the College Council to facilitate more synergy between the two.
Great, thank you. Ron?
Hi, I'm Ron Law, longtime graduate of New Paltz and member of the council for a long-standing time.
Thank you. Rich?
Hey everybody, Rich Winters, Director of Community and Government Relations, and welcome aboard to the new members.
Thank you. Shelley, the
Yes,
ringmaster.
Shelley Wright. I'm Chief of Staff and Vice President for Communication and Secretary to the College Council.
Thank you. Keeping everything together. Stephanie?
Hi, Stephanie Blaisdell. I'm the Vice President for Student Affairs.
And I think we have Mike is hosting it. He's working right now. And okay, well, that's great.
We have a call-in member, cabinet member as well, Ron, or Eli.
It's only, Tahina. Tahina, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How's everybody? My name is
missed you.
Tahina Pacheco Dunn. Oh, thank you. It'll be all right. My name is Tahina Pacheco Dunn, and I am the Associate Vice President of Human Resources, Diversity, and Inclusion, and the college's Chief Diversity Officer.
Great. And the first thing I'd like to do is ask for approval of the minutes, which were attached and should have all been sent to you. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Right. A second?
Second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The minutes are approved. Thank you very much. Now we get to have a little show, get some information, get to see how the campus is progressing. And, it's really kind of bittersweet that John is leaving. When I first was involved in the council decades ago, and the hodgepodge that the New Paltz campus was something that I thought would always continue. And then years ago, John rolled out this plan that how everything was going to be coordinated and how it would have symmetry and how all the different architectural styles would be integrated and how things would be improved and there would be a flow for the students around campus. And looking out from the 9th floor there, it seemed impossible, not even a dream. It seemed like a joke. And I mean it. And it's hard to believe how things have gone. The plan, I know it's been a large degree because of his initiative and insight and all the other people who worked along with him. But I really mean that. It was hard to believe that they would bring any semblance of organization the way New Paltz kind of sprouted up like weeds in a garden. And but it's been amazing. And I think it's a testament to the trajectory of where New Paltz is in the SUNY system. And for each time that things were improved, it gave the opportunity to make things even better in the future. And this is where we are now. And you're going to tell us where we're going, right? So please do. Thank you.
I will. I just want to clarify, is Don going to do his report first, or would you like me to continue?
The agenda I was given as you first. So whatever you're comfortable with.
Okay. Okay. Then, then I will
take
go.
directions very well.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to share my screen. Hope all of this is going to work out. So hopefully you will be seeing the PDF that I had sent previously and hope that everybody received. As I said, I'm Megan Smaler. I am the Director of Facilities Design and Construction. I have actually been working for the campus in facilities management for 25 years now. So I've seen a lot of the progress that has happened. I've been involved in a lot of it over all of these years. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this first sheet, which it tells about facilities design and construction and the type of projects we do. I wanted you to have, I know there are some new council members, and have a little bit of understanding about the different types of projects we do and where some of the funding comes from. So any questions that anybody has on any of this at the end or later, you know, feel free to get a hold of me. But we do, we partner with other state agencies, the Dormitory Authority of the State of New York and the State University Construction Fund on large projects. We use capital monies that are assigned to us through SUNY system and the construction fund to do campus lets, which is where the staff here in facilities management administers the projects instead of working with one of the state agencies. Over the past, I think that it's been maybe 2 years since the council has had an update on construction projects. Much of that 2 years we spent in this pandemic, and I'm sure many people have heard about delays of products in the construction industry. We have, you know, other challenges where, you know, labor shortages, labor or not having labor and workers falling sick. And needless to say, we plowed through as much of it as we could, and we're still able to deliver some great new spaces and exterior work to the campus during this time. We have a few LEED certifications that we've earned since last reported in 2018. Our Wooster Hall renovation earned gold, LEED gold. Our Minnewaska Hall, which is one of our residence halls, also earned gold. Our new engineering hub, which I believe John spoke about the last time, had just been opened, earned gold, and our science hall, our new science hall building, earned silver. So we keep adding sustainable and energy efficient buildings and renovations to our portfolio on campus here.
Megan, I'm sorry, can I interrupt for a minute? What does LEED stand for?
I'm sorry.
LED, LEED?
That, oh, now you're putting me to the test. Leadership in energy and environmental development, I believe, is what it stands for.
I think that's
Thank
right.
you.
Design, I think it's design.
I'm sorry.
Environmental design.
Environmental design. Okay. And so it is a bar set above the minimum code requirements that we have here in New York State for energy code, to use sustainable materials, to design and install energy efficient heating equipment, lighting, to provide spaces to the occupants that are productive and comfortable to be in. So that is basically what the LEED program fosters in design and construction projects. Not all of our we don't go for LEED certification on all of our projects. The larger projects we do, but we are always designing to a minimum of LEED silver. The highest is platinum, then gold, then silver, then certified. So we are always designing to a minimum of LEED silver, whether we go through the certification process with the LEED organization, with the USGBC or not. So I want to talk about some of the projects recently completed. What I want to do first is talk about the Student Union building. We had a roof replacement project that turned also into a 4th floor renovation project. And our communication and marketing departments and some of their interns have done a really great little video. It's just a minute long, and you can see.
Hi everyone, my name is Ray, and today I'm going to be giving you a little tour of the newly renovated 4th floor of the Student Union building. If you haven't got a chance to check it out, let's go.
And that's why I love the moon, 'cause it's always there for me. inside. It's right there for me in my mind, and that's why I love you, yeah. Because people can consume my love in the wrong way.
Okay, so I thought that you guys might enjoy that. So the fourth floor of our student union building, a lot of student meeting spaces, meeting rooms that all of campus can reserve and use. Our radio station and TV studios are now up on this floor. There's a meditation and prayer room, a mother's room. You saw much of it in the video. But it really turned out to be a fabulous new spaces, much needed updating from the original building, and has had a lot of use and a lot of positive feedback. So the next project that I wanted to show you was over in our lecture center, which is the building with our largest lecture halls. We had a project where we needed to upgrade some mechanical systems, and we were also able to upgrade the lobbies in this space. Again, used by students. Our farmers market is there today. Inside one of these lobbies, we have a farmer's market every Thursday, and you can see the before picture here, and then the after, and how much this space has been transformed. So those two projects and the next one, we're all done with our partner agency, the State University Construction Fund. They administered these projects for us. And then my department acts as liaisons and coordinators between campus and the construction fund, and also the contractors and design teams. We had some vestibule upgrades at a number of our buildings, the Koikandal Science Building, the Student Union, the Haggerty Administration Building. And then as part of this exteriors project, we also did some historic updates over at our Vandenberg Hall Annex. Behind the Vandenberg Hall is the annex, and it needed some tender loving care to the roof with a lot of copper details and the historic windows. So all of these projects were able to continue during the pandemic. There were a lot of protocols that the contractors had to follow with masking and temperature taking and recording of who was on, on site and not. And so it caused some delays, a little bit of extra money and time, but we were able to get all of them done. And we did a few exterior projects. Two of the projects we were able to do were right in front of our Haggerty Administration and Student Union building at the main entrance to campus, replacing some old steps with some nice new granite steps and railings, and a new railing at the accessible ramp in the front, and a little bit farther down the list here I show the main entry steps were also redone. We did some accessibility ADA improvements over at our Parker Theater. We had a dance studio classroom and practice room next to the Parker Theater, where you had to step up from the corridor. So we took out this odd little vestibule and put in a new ramp into the dance studio. We're also finishing up some door operators and things like that, a new handicap accessible gender neutral bathroom for the students to use in the costume shop area. That one was an example of a project that we designed and administered directly from our department here on campus without the assistance of either of the other agencies. We have a big project that I'll give you a little snapshot of coming up, going out to bid, but we were able, with the help of Erica Marks and some donors, do some sign improvements over at our Samuel Dorsky Museum Art, which is celebrating an anniversary this year, and with the help of to find the museum, which is centrally located in the heart of our campus, yet hard to get to because you have to walk there from the parking lots. So we were able to get some signage done to improve trying to find the Samuel Dorsky Museum. Some people may not be so excited about paving projects, but we here are excited about our paving projects. Each year, almost every year, we are able to do some paving upgrades, you know, to fix roadways that have just been patched and filled and with crumbling curbs, and also improve pedestrian. We have a lot of pedestrian traffic on campus that have to cross these roads, and make improvements for safety with new crosswalks, better aligned, things like that. Here are the main entrance steps that I spoke about before. The old ones had really had a very good and useful life, but it was time for them to have an upgrade, and we were able to do that. That project got delayed for quite a while at the beginning of COVID, but we were able to pick up with it again. So we have to thank all of our neighbors over there in the Haggerty Administration Building for being patient and putting up with us for the time that we were working on that project. The Scholars Mentorship Program was completed a while back, but I don't think that you had gotten an update from John on that the last time that he spoke to you. So we've moved the Scholars Mentorship Program from the basement of Shango Hall over to the ground floor of the Student Union, where it's right off of all of the Union area and services. So they have a great new space over there with a lounge for the students, offices for the staff, and a meeting room, a meeting and training room, and a computer lab. So they went from one room where they tried to do all of these services to a great new suite of rooms right in the heart of campus, where so it's convenient for many of their students. We have an IT study that just finished up. The construction fund helped us with that, with an engineer who looked at all of our IT infrastructure and needs, and have put forth a number of projects for us to move forward on to upgrade all things supporting IT. Many of you know, just from having cell phones and computers that we use at work or at home, that IT is constantly changing, and we need to try to keep up with that or get ahead of it a little bit. So some of our projects coming up in the future will be IT support projects. Projects in construction right now, we have the Fine Arts Building. This one was newer than a lot of the other buildings that we've been working on lately. I think it was built in the early 90s, but we had some brick on the outside of the building that was starting to crumble and be a concern for safety. So we have a new rain screen exterior being put on with insulated metal panels and new windows. So we have energy efficiency improvements here, as well as aesthetic improvements at our Fine Arts Building. So that's soon to be completed. They're in the last lap of that project. The Boughton Residence Hall This is one of our largest residence hall. It holds about 300 students. It was a traditional double loaded corridor style where it's double rooms off of a corridor, and it had group style bathrooms where it was a large room where it might have 4 toilet stalls, 4 showers, 8 sinks. We have renovated it. We've taken that same footprint of the group bathrooms and created all single use, all gender bathrooms. So similar to what you have in your home, excuse me, with a toilet, sink, and shower, lockable and able to be used by one student. So that is, this one was suffered with COVID delays as well. The Dormitory Authority put all of their projects on hold for a number of months. And then we also suffered from some sickness issues with the construction crews, but we are on schedule to finish that in the next few weeks. We have our contemplative space being built right now or constructed. This is a space that will be across the water, or gunk as we call it. I don't know if all of you know that our ponds and water features on campus we call the gunk, but across from the Peregrine Quad, which we renamed a few years ago. And this space, and maybe Shelley or Erica and Tahina can say a little more about it if anybody has questions. This space is meant to be like a little pocket park off of one of our sidewalks. And it is meant to honor the 3 major groups of people that were part of the discussion: the indigenous people who used this land before we came and developed it, the Huguenots, who were the earliest settlers in New Paltz, and then representing the slaves who were then part of that early culture of New Paltz. So we hope to have this done in November. With the delay in getting things started with COVID, I think that most of it will be done, but plantings, it's not really great to plant plants in December, so that might have to follow up in the spring. We have our lecture set. We have bridges, pedestrian bridges between the lecture center and the humanities building on the one side and the library on the other, that have been for years called the Habit Trail bridges. They had these curved acrylic ceilings on them, and they're being replaced with, again, a glass structure, but a squared off, more modern glass structure at the bridges. We have a project going on right now replacing piping for our condenser water lines in the Student Union, Kuykendall Science, and Old Main. This is not something that anybody would come to campus and see and realize, but I use these pictures here to show you how these pipes, the inside of them, are scaling. This is a bucket full of scale that was collected when they flushed it out. So these are some of the not so noticeable and pretty and exciting things that we have to do here to keep our buildings running properly and everybody comfortable in them. So in the spring, we hope to have these projects starting. This Wasting Hall is the 4th residence hall in the Peregrine Quad that will have a complete renovation, and the first of 2 that will have a 4th floor addition. We are adding beds, adding a 4th floor onto this hall, and then Mohonk Hall to follow. In preparation and for our College Hall renovation, College Hall includes Shango and College Hall Residence Hall section, which we would like to transform into all academic space. So we're adding the beds here in the Peregrine Quad to make up for the beds lost in the College Hall, in the future College Hall project. We have some roof replacements going on that will start at the faculty office building and the Smiley Art Building complex next year. We have some masonry repairs that are happening at our old main building. And I don't have any photos, but at our Jacobson Faculty Tower, we have window replacements happening that will happen over it's 4 phases over 2 years, over 2 summers. That's going to take a lot of coordinating and swing space. So I'm sorry, is there a question? No. Okay. Projects going out to bid soon are our exterior signs. I mentioned with the Dorsky Museum that we started there and did some of these signs. This is kind of a snapshot. When I started here in 1998, our exterior signs looked very much like they came from the state parks. They were brown metal signs with white letters. They did the job. They let you know what building it was and what, you know, parking lot it was and where to go. We did 1 complete exterior sign replacement, and now we're on the 2nd in my tenure here. So this was a group was put together to design a new sign standard, both interior and exterior. These are the snapshots of the exterior signs, which you can see bring in our branding, our new college branding, and will hopefully be cohesive all across campus. It's also introducing some pedestrian signs around campus that we haven't had yet. So when you've reached the center of campus and are looking for our Wooster Hall, our Wooster Science Building, or Lecture Center or something like that, you'll be able to find it more easily, or the Dorsky Museum. We have some handicap accessibility improvements at our South Turf athletic field. Right now we have a dirt road here at the bottom of the photo. And we're going to be doing some site work here and adding bleachers and accessible area for watching our games. Our athletic teams, our soccer team is doing really well, our men's soccer team, and they play on this field. And we get a lot of visitors that come and watch the games. So this will be a great improvement for athletics. In design, projects that are in design right now and upcoming, we have a lot of the projects that are in design now are maintenance oriented, and many of our exterior stairs need some tender loving care, and ramps need some improvements. So there's a project that the construction fund is administering. There are about 8 different stairways in this project, and then our quad between the Smiley Art Building and the library and Kuykendall and Fine Arts Building will also get a facelift. We're hoping to reduce some of the hardscape a little bit and add some more green. We're working with the Sustainability Committee and using sustainable and local plantings, and doing what we can to improve our outdoor spaces, as well as focusing on that kind of thing on our indoor, in our indoor spaces. Elevators, again, not one of those projects that a lot of people are going to realize happened unless they've been stuck in our elevators or have had to use the stairs because they don't work. So we are starting a design project to replace 11 elevators in 6 of our buildings. It's a big coordination challenge. Some of the buildings have 2 elevators. We can take one down at a time, but other buildings only have 1, and we have to work out closely with academic schedule and building use how to do that. We have a number of other projects listed here that are going into design. If anybody, as I said, has any questions about anything afterward, let me know. 2 more that I wanted to talk about specifically, our College Hall. I had mentioned that our College Hall right now is a combination of academic space in the center and residence hall space on either side. We are looking to renovate this building. We are approaching this project with the State University Construction Fund. And we've been approved to do the first phase, which is program development and up to schematic design. There are accessibility issues in here. The building is older, and we would like to transform it all into academic use. This building has been important to many departments on campus over the years. So we are going to make sure that we have a group of stakeholders as part of this process, developing the program and future use and design of this project. It'll include the departments that are currently housed in there, which are music and our honors center and our teaching. It used to be the Teaching Learning Center. It's not called that anymore, but that support and train our academics and staff, as well as potential future stakeholders. We will include alumni relations, Black Studies, and the Scholars Mentor Program have history in these buildings. So we will include everybody in these discussions that who have history or interest in this building. The last part of the Student Union building to be renovated will be the 3rd floor in our multi-purpose room. We've done renovations in most of the rest of the building. So the 3rd floor again is as many student spaces, and I'm hoping that it will be something similar to the 4th floor, which you saw the video of earlier. And then the multi-purpose room, probably many of you have been to. It's our largest, kind of group assembly room that isn't a lecture hall on campus and in dire need of a facelift. And then we have the Peregrine Dining Hall renovation. We've just applied for a matching grant from the State University Construction Fund, a 2-for-1 matching grant that we're hopeful to receive. It's our only dining hall on campus. We have some other smaller food service areas, but it doesn't have an elevator. So again, we have an accessibility challenge there. And we hope that we will be approved for the matching funds to be able to do that. I saw from John's former presentations that he had talked to you, had talked about a capital project request. He had a slide. These are the remaining, I listed we've done all of the projects on that slide. So there are 6 here. There are probably 12 or 14 that we've been able to complete. And these are the remaining from our last capital plan that we'll be looking at in the near future. So carbon neutrality is something that we've been tasked to reduce our carbon emissions as the rest of New York State has. by both the governor and our chancellor. And we expect there to be projects specifically targeting carbon reduction, as well as every project that we move forward on will keep carbon neutrality in mind. So we do have a clean energy master plan that's going to be done with a consultant coming up soon that will help us in our directives for building and carbon reductions in building, operating, and design and renovation. But there are a lot of other things that if you ever hear Lisa Mitten, our sustainability coordinator, talk about, there are a lot of other ways that the campus needs to consider carbon in the types of foods we eat. Apparently dairy and beef are very high carbon producing food sources. We can reduce travel or think better about the way we support travel, which is limited right now anyway. But in our purchasing department, trying to minimize anything that is carbon producing in all areas of the campus. So that is the end of my presentation. I'm going to stop sharing so I can see everybody again. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to ask.
Well, Megan, I want to thank you for extremely comprehensive and informative, I would say, well, entertaining as well when we had some video. To put everybody on the page of what's going on. I know there wasn't a great deal of major capital projects like new buildings, but certainly what the reforming of the campus and bringing it into what we're conscious of now environmentally is such a wonderful goal, and it seems to be progressing in the right direction. A lot is always going on. I know some meets the eye and some is underground and on the inside, but things look great. And I'm very happy to hear that things have been done safely, functionally, and to my eye, very aesthetically pleasing as well. So I think you meet all the criteria that we want. And I thank you, and please let John know that I thank him as well for all his hard work.
Thank you, I will.
And I mean it. I would love to have taken a walk through rather than a see-through like we did, but that day is coming shortly, I'm sure. And hope to see you then. So are there any questions from anybody? Julie, I was going to call on you anyhow if you didn't have one. So what question do you have?
I always have a question.
Of course.
So my question is, you had mentioned that only 6 items were left from the capital plan, but is there a 5-year capital plan that is going to be updated, or how is that capital plan generated, and what happens next now that most of the things are done on that original capital plan?
Good question.
Right. So we have not been, and I think it's because of COVID, it has not been updated. That's something we do with the State University Construction Fund. And we do have some, they always ask us about our priority projects. Our top 3 priority projects are the College Hall renovation. We have the Elting Gym and Pool expansion. And then a new academic building. I know John has talked. I apologize for not having all of John's knowledge about planning. Since I'm in design and construction, we get assigned the projects and we make them happen. So I'm working my way more into the whole planning and trying to fill in his absence a little bit in this regard. So I've also I'm kind of new to the director position since November. So, but we will have an updated plan, because our plan was 2015 to 19. And I asked our program coordinator the other day, are we going to have something new? And yes, we will. Many of the things have been on our list for a while. And we do need to develop that. So I will definitely share it with Cabinet when that is coming. They're part of the discussions to share with you as well.
I think Eli, I think Michelle wants to chime in on the 5-year plan question.
Yeah, so behind the 5-year plan, so the campus always has its expanded plan of priorities, but behind the 5-year plan has to come some money. Since I can't even remember when the last 5-year plan was, I think it was 2008 to 2013.
Yeah.
We've been going year by year with the State University Construction Fund and the state government. They've only been allotting us a yearly allocation for our buildings, which makes it difficult when you get $4 million and have $80 million worth of projects that you need to get done. One of the things now that we have an opportunity for, with a new administration, both at SUNY System and a new administration up at the state government, is to advocate for SUNY to get another 5-year plan. It works wonders with our campus planning and you know, just the longitudinal look. Megan's right. John had the planning background, but she's doing awesome in this role that I've thrown her into in a heartbeat. And a lot of the planning has to do with all the priorities on campus. We have a laundry list of projects, some of them sexy, some of them not so sexy, that need to get done. And the amount of work that Megan and her team, along with the facilities operations side of the house, is phenomenal. You know, I think Megan's group is about 7 people that both design and manage the projects. And they did it throughout COVID. And I can't say enough about the hard work that they've done. And since John is retiring, if anything goes south, we are going to blame John because that's what we do around here. So, but yeah, that's the 5-year plan in a nutshell. We are hopeful that we will get some advocacy with the state government and see a more fulsome plan come through.
Thank you.
Yeah, I know that it looked like none of them would ever get done, these 5-year blocks way back, and they were all like the list of dreams, one after the other, but they got done eventually, and now's the time to start over again and fill in those spots that we need, and hopefully there's going to be the push now because New Paltz is going to continue to expand, and the students are just going to keep coming, and they're going to need the facilities, and they're going to make things better environmentally and also functionally. And now's the time to start. Just like when COVID gave you some opportunity to draw some plans. Maybe there wasn't construction going on and people are out, but it gave you the opportunity to stop, pause, think, and make a plan. And so now's the time to get on with things when we go over the threshold after COVID. So I'm kind of optimistic. I know it seems like nothing ever gets done with the state and the dormitory authority. It seems like they're, even when you get things passed, they don't allocate it and they drip, drip, drip. But that's just the nature of what's going on. But eventually persistence overcomes resistance. So thank you for your hard work, Megan, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Don,
Eli, can I add a quick comment?
Sure.
For the council members, you may be interested in knowing or being reminded that in the last space analysis that was done for our campus, which specifies the amount of space that you need for particular programs with particular numbers of faculty and particular numbers of students, we had somewhere in the order of a 500,000 square foot space deficit in non-residential space. And so we're squeezed for space, and it limits some of the ways we approach challenges that we have.
Yeah, and it is an impact on academics as well. But I'm glad to see the dormitories are getting upgraded. It's kind of amazing. It was phenomenal to see a 4th floor be put on. But those are the things that can be done to improve things with the current footprint. And it's really good allocation of space and doing it environmentally conscious way. And I know that I didn't go into the power plant and how energy is on campus, but there's a lot of room for improvement. Yes, Shelley.
Sure, just to follow up, one of the things that we're gearing up for this fall and we'll push in the spring is our advocacy. We'll be working both at a campus-based level on advocacy along with our system colleagues so that we're, rowing in the same direction and, we make clear to them what our priorities are and they can bring those priorities to their meetings with the legislature and the governor's staff. And, one of the things that the role of the council is to also, in conversations with those folks of influence and their representatives, to help us share the college's needs in those conversations that you have as well. So we appreciate that when you can do that.
We're certainly supposed to be and should be and will be very loud advocates.
Thanks, Eli.
Okay, now, President, your report, please.
I see Jordan has a hand up.
Oh. Can I even see him? I don't see him on my screen. Oh, hi, Jordan. I see two hands now. How you doing?
I'm all right.
Okay.
I do have one question about the presentation. First, a bit of confusion with Colango Hall. So is that no longer going to be a residence hall, and all the rooms in that residence hall is going to be the addition to a hosting? Did I hear that correctly?
It is one of the options that was recommended to us during a feasibility study a few years ago. Because of our need for such a great need for academic space that President Christian just noted, it was suggested that if we have the beds elsewhere on campus, that we could then convert College Hall to all academic space. Part of this first project that we're doing, programming means to consider the needs of the campus and the departments, and then schematic design will be to work with consultants and people who can assess that for us. Help us to assess it. Look from the out. Sometimes looking from the outside helps us see a little bit clearer. So that was the recommendation from the feasibility study a few years ago, and as a possibility for moving forward. So they tie into each other.
Right.
Well, my only fear with that is, I'm sorry.
I know there's a real mindfulness of the building and its history, and I know that's certainly in the
It's on
forefront
our minds.
consideration.
Yeah.
Well, even beyond that, my only fear is that typically Colango Hall is used for first-year students, considering that all those suite halls, so everything that's on Peregrine Quad, is usually reserved for people who are sophomores and above. So if you have 30 credits and or more, you're allowed to live in that residence hall. So my fear is that if all of those beds are now transported for more suite halls, what happens to those first-year students, especially considering there's now one less residence hall? So it's technically you're only providing more beds or spacing for people who are sophomores and up. Does that make sense?
It does. We built Ridgeview Hall. So talking about how long projects happen here, like how long it takes to do something. Ridgeview was looking forward to providing space for freshmen as well. So we built Ridgeview somewhat in preparation for this and to add more first year. We also have started offering residence beds to transfer students, and transfer students are upperclassmen. So in order to have beds to house the transfer students was another reason for trying to increase the beds in the suite style halls. I don't know if Stephanie has more to add to that, but.
Uh-oh, we can't hear
You're
you.
muted.
I mean, I can say that the idea is to get the Awasting and then the Mohonk. We're going to do the same thing with Mohonk Hall. And hopefully we have those beds before we would even take College Shango offline, right?
Yeah.
So that's the order of the projects. So there would be, nobody displaced or no fewer number of beds by the time we get there. It's going to take, I mean, Megan, wouldn't you say it's we're not breaking ground on that or finishing College Hall.
No, it would be at least a
Single into-
5-year process.
Yeah.
At best.
That's my world. Yes.
Yes. So
All right, thank you. That's my only question.
it's a good question.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Don?
Okay, first, thanks, Megan, for that great report. It's rewarding to see how our campus has changed physically in the last dozen years or so. First, I want to welcome
And
Jeff,
Don,
Neil, Julie.
before you start, Megan, you're welcome to stay, but you're also welcome to leave us if you have other things to do. So I just wanted to fit that in real quickly.
I won't be offended.
Okay, thank you. I think I will exit. It was very nice to meet all of you. Thanks again.
Thanks, Megan.
Thanks,
Okay,
Megan.
bye-bye.
Thank you, and that's why you were up on the top of the agenda. So thank you very much.
Okay, thanks. Bye-bye.
Right. So first, I want to welcome Jeff, Neil, Julie, and Jordan as new council members, and I want to thank Eli, Eleanor, and Ron for your longstanding and high-quality service to the council, and I look forward to working with all of you during the coming year. I'll talk a little bit about the mood on campus this year. Even though everyone is masked, it's beginning to feel like a normal semester. I have commented on several other occasions that never in my 13 years here have I seen so many students so happy to be on campus taking classes with in the same space with professors and with fellow students. And I think that's a mark of how hard it has been for students since March 2020, whether they're continuing college students or high school students making the transition to higher education. Again, we're careful, we're cautious, but we're seeing lots of positive signs there. And I've talked with a number of students in the last week or so that even midterm exams didn't seem to be dampening their enthusiasm for this semester. So that was a good sign. I'll share a few other updates of things happening on the campus. First, a few things about COVID management, which of course continues to be a dominant theme in our work. The pandemic feels fragile in many other parts of the country, but we have mostly good news to report, even though we continue to be cautious and wary of potential increases in cases. First of all, we have 100% compliance with the SUNY student vaccine mandate. About 97% of our students are fully vaccinated. The rest have are either studying completely remotely or have medical or religious exemptions from vaccination. And we've had to disenroll only 7 students who didn't comply with that mandate, which is a really good sign. We were worried about what that would look like. About not quite 80% of our employees are vaccinated. We're trying to continue to push that up, and we've seen some gradual improvements there. We've had great cooperation from students and employees in our indoor masking mandate. And our number of active daily cases is generally in the single digits. We're watching, we're sensitive enough to it that when we see 2 or 3 additional cases, we pay attention to that. But so far, at least, we're remaining in the single digits. Our contact tracing efforts provide 0 evidence of any in-class transmission. And that's a piece that we're also reassured by, at least under current conditions. Those who have come down with tested positive for COVID are generally having mild or no symptoms, and so far, knock on wood, no hospitalizations. At the start of the semester, some of our employees were very anxious, employees with children were very anxious about bringing COVID home from campus to their unvaccinated children. Some of that anxiety, I think, is being lessened by some very recent reports that unvaccinated children are less vulnerable to contacting COVID-19 than fully vaccinated people over the age of 65. So that's softened some of that concern, we think. So all of these things point to the conclusion that it's probably safer being in a SUNY New Paltz classroom than it is shopping in one of the local supermarkets. And it gives us optimism of being able to complete the semester and hopefully the academic year in person as we've been doing. But as I pointed out, we continue to closely monitor what's going on with COVID-19. I think you're aware that last month we celebrated the completion this past summer of our first ever major fundraising campaign in the college's entire history. We raised $24.7 million as a total, exceeding our predetermined target of $23 million. And so we're excited about that. The foundation and Office of Development and Alumni Relations is launching a 2-year, what we're calling a bridge campaign that focuses on fundraising for scholarships as planning begins for a next major fundraising campaign. So I look forward to being part of that effort during the current year and handing that off to my successor as a work in progress. I'll say a couple things about the Sojourner Truth sculpture. You may have heard about this project, and I hope you're all aware that Vice President Marks and I apologize for letting our enthusiasm for the gift of a Sojourner Truth sculpture lead us to charge ahead full bore without involving others in the planning of that sculpture and the commemoration of the 50-year anniversary of the naming of the Sojourner Truth Library. So we've postponed that ceremony until the spring, and Vice President Marks and others are meeting with, have begun meeting with Black Studies faculty, other individuals, other groups to seek input into planning what we want to have as a broadly informed, inclusive educational event later on this year. I'll say a few things about enrollment. As our enrollment numbers settle out, I can report that our class of first-year students was larger than even the pre-pandemic class, not by a lot, but by some. And that's an encouraging observation as we begin to tackle our strategic enrollment challenges. Our overall enrollment is down this fall by 4.8%, which is partly positive, but it does translate into pretty substantial losses of tuition revenue. So that's owing in large part to higher rates of non-returners and depressed transfer numbers. The community colleges were hit particularly hard by the pandemic, and our graduate recruitment numbers are down. These patterns have been observed nationwide and are clearly lingering impacts of the pandemic. But I will share that our 4.8% drop in enrollment this fall is rosy compared with what some of our sister campuses are facing. One of the top tier comprehensives is down by about 20%. A couple are down by more than 40% in overall enrollment. And so we can take some heart in our fairly modest declines in enrollment. So our Division of Enrollment Management continues to roll out new strategies to increase new student enrollment, trying to generate more applications, but more importantly, trying to increase yield. Yield is the percentage of our accepted students, accepted applicants who choose to come to New Paltz rather than going someplace else. And many of our applicants have applied to 5, 6, 7, 8 different schools. So that's part of the dynamic that we're working on there. So those efforts focus on both undergraduate and graduate recruitment, and we're adopting a new platform that will help high school students connect more effectively with us. It'll help us communicate with prospects and applicants earlier and more regularly, and help us get on the radar screen of students who have applied to other institutions, but not us, so that they understand the similarity in programs that we have with competitors like UAlbany, SUNY Binghamton, and others. We're starting a new President's Award for Student Excellence, and I'm pleased to leave this legacy for my successor and for future students in the form of this new award. This was suggested by leaders in student affairs. Thank you, Stephanie. And it's to be sure that we honor graduating New Paltz students who have demonstrated not only academic excellence, but also outstanding achievement in leadership, community service, campus engagement, other successes. And we intend to present the first of these awards this coming spring. And this award will stand alongside the longstanding Chancellor's Award for student excellence. We had a great parent and family weekend a couple weekends ago, and I really enjoyed meeting with current students and their parents. We held an event we called New Paltz Generations, which included a pinning ceremony of current students by their alumni parents. And it was a great opportunity for us to get feedback. We heard lots of praise for campus life this fall, about the work of our faculty and staff to support and teach students, and the successes of the campus for keeping COVID-19 under control. And there again, we heard from both parents and students the pleasures of being in person and present on campus this fall. We had an alumni reunion this past weekend, and we know that some alumni chose to take part in virtual options for some events, so our on-campus presence was lower than we had hoped, but the spirit of those alums who came back to campus was really positive and forward-looking. I gave a scaled-back version of my State of the College address, trying to emphasize key elements of our progress these past dozen or so years. And I was focused on inspiring confidence, reducing anxiety about the coming transition, and also showcasing some of the strengths that should make this campus a really attractive opportunity for a next president. Alumni in attendance were especially taken by what I shared about our placement in the most recent U.S. News and World Report college rankings, and you may have seen these, but I'll reiterate some of these things here. We climbed to number 6 from number 9 the previous year among public universities in the North region. This is a 5 or 6 state region. We also climbed from number 45 last year to number 31 this year among all non-doctoral campuses in that North region. And that includes both public and private. We were recognized for the first time in a most innovative schools category, and we were one of only 2 SUNYs to appear on that list. And we continued to be included on several other particular lists, including the best schools, best value schools, best colleges for veterans, best undergraduate teaching, top performers on social mobility. We were included on rankings of the best undergraduate business programs and best undergraduate engineering programs, and one of very few SUNYs to receive that double recognition. And we also received ranking inclusion on best graduate programs in business, best graduate programs in fine arts, and best speech language pathology graduate programs. So I shared that that I hope our progress makes our alumni proud, and also that I hope they recognize that as the reputation of the college continues to grow, it increases the way that the rest of the world perceives and values their degree from SUNY New Paltz, no matter when it was awarded. And it was kind of heartening to hear during my Q&A from one alum who raised her hand, and she said, "I'm a 1981 New Paltz alumna. For many, many years, I never wanted to tell people where I graduated from. But now, as I see the way the reputation of the college has grown and improved, I'm really proud and excited to share that I'm a New Paltz alum." So I thought that was a really nice story, capturing the kind of positive impact of the growth and the progress that we've made. So with that, I'll stop and respond to any questions or comments that college council members or others may have.
Well, thank you for bringing us up to date. Sounds like mostly good news, and I think the enrollment figures are just a consequence of COVID, and like most things, may come back a lot stronger as a result of that. There may be a lot of pent-up demand, and especially of people returning after a couple of years out from transfers and things of that nature.
Well, to that point, one piece I should add that's part of the reason why we're taking this so seriously is that there are projections of what some are calling a demographic cliff, which is a pronounced decline. Is it 15% in the next 4 or 5 years, between 2025 and 2029. So it's going to be a competitive world, and I like to think in Darwinian terms about this, that I want us to be one of the survivors.
Yeah, I think we will be, and I think the testament to way New Paltz's profile constantly moves up on that trajectory that you've helped continue to raise higher and higher. That's the future. This is where you are, the Hudson Valley, and it's a magnet for people, and the institution itself is as well. And I know people like Jordan. You know, you hear about it, you tell your friends about it, you like it. The feedback is great, and that's its best. You know, the best advertisements is success. And so, thank you. Does anybody have any questions? I'm really disappointed there's no controversies, Don, but other than that, everything sounds great. Not too exciting, but that's good.
I wish I could say that were the case.
Oh, yeah, right. Okay. So, Ron.
Yeah, I would say that as we look forward to the future, I guess it is incumbent upon us to create a 5-year expansion plan, because if we expect other colleges to be closing, they're going to want to come to New Paltz, and we're going to need the space for them.
You're right.
Yeah, that's right.
And quality is the magnet. So, Ron, now I'm going to call on you to bring us a short update, a little brief status as to the search for a successor.
I'm going to be real brief. The search has started.
Great.
No, seriously, the search has started. Chancellor, the chancellor came down and he met with the search committee on October 5th. Now, one of the things which you should keep in mind is that all the procedures which the search committee is following are guidelines which are outlined by SUNY Central. So we somewhat have to adhere to those. And part of that is that the guidelines is that the search committee includes 4 college council members, 6 faculty members, an academic dean, a professional staff member, a foundation board member, an alumni representative, a classified staff member, a student and a graduate student, and a member of the senior staff from the chancellor's office. And in this case, the senior member from the chancellor's office is his chief of staff, which means that's how important it is to them to make sure that this search goes well and smoothly, and that we have someone who can stand on Donald's shoulders. We at first started out with 16 members, but we were able to get 2 more to approve to be approved to join the search committee, because what we wanted to do was to make sure that the committee was as diversified as possible. So that's why we asked for a graduate member and a classified staff member. Now, the people who were chosen from the faculty and staff was actually done through a election on the part of the faculty and staff, and that a vote was taken to determine who was interested, at least who was serving. And from that list, we were able to at least to pick people who would be best to represent and to work with us on the search. In the end, the legal authority to appoint the president of the college rests with SUNY Central Board of Trustees. College Council will have an input by making a recommendation to the board, and that will go up to the chancellor, and the chancellor will then forward that to the board of this SUNY Board of Trustees. We have a search firm which is helping us in this process, and that's RPA, and they're helping us to recruit. And we also have submitted a ad that has gone out to most of the higher education publications across the country to be able to help us attract the best possible number of people who will want to be interviewed for this position. We're hoping that we'll get the first well, no, not the first, the final list of people who are interested, at least by Thanksgiving, and we'll begin the process of reviewing them. There is a presidential search website, and it's linked to the college homepage. And that basically we're asking anybody if they have any questions regarding the presidential search to please go to that website, and you can find most of your answers there. There's also a place where you can submit questions, or if you want information, which will come to the search committee, and then an answer will be provided as appropriate. Shelley Wright and Lisa Davis and Zelenka Rodriguez are the non-voting support staff members who are helping us in this effort. If there aren't any questions, I would like to turn this over or turn the meeting back over to our chair, Mr. Eli Bosch.
Thanks, Ron. And the only thing I would say is good luck. It's going to be a lot of work, and I really appreciate you taking the helm. And it's always confidential. So when some of these questions are asked, I know we just point to the website, and that's where the answers almost always are going to lie. And
were you able to see the quick glimpse of the site? Okay, good.
Oh yes, oh yeah. And so it should be exciting. It'll be interesting to see how things go. So thanks a lot. Does anybody have any questions? Seeing none, I'll ask Michelle to give us a little report on how things are doing from a financial perspective.
Thank you, Eli. I'm going to attempt to share my screen here, but my PowerPoint was acting a little finicky earlier. So I'm afraid if I put it into slide mode, we may not be able to see each other. Are you seeing my screen?
Yep.
And
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to try to do slide mode. And are you seeing the slide mode and seeing each other?
No.
No? Okay. But you're still seeing the presentation. Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Kind of.
Kind of? What are you seeing?
College Council, October 21st,
page.
2021.
Okay, good. All right, that's good. All right, so I wanted to give a little bit of a primer for our new members and a little review for others.
Michelle, excuse
Yeah.
me just 1 second. For if people aren't familiar with WebEx, on the left-hand side you have an oval, or it looks like a vertical racetrack, and there's a little magnifier with a plus on it, and that will let you enlarge the slides.
Thanks, Don.
Thank you.
All right, so what you're about to see is one of our 4 funds. The campus has 4 different separate sets of accounts, the largest of which we call the State Operating Fund. And then the others are Income Fund Reimbursable, which is our fees fund, and Residence Hall Reimbursable, which houses the room rent and the whole Residence Hall program. And then a Summer and Winter Tuition Fund, which is it's tangentially related to what I'm about to show you, but is not a huge fund. So what I'm going to show you is the State Operating Fund. The revenue sources for this fund are tuition dollars from our students, a little bit of fee income in a small fee called the college fee, which is $50 a year, and interest, which is almost non-existent this year, along with state taxpayer support. And then the expenses are pretty much representative of almost all of the academic enterprise of the campus. So next slide. See if I can move forward. All right, come on. Are you seeing numbers?
No.
How about now?
No.
It hasn't moved to the second slide.
Nuts.
You might have to take it down and then.
Yeah, I
change
think
it.
so.
I think so.
I'm going to
yeah.
exit slide mode.
Okay.
Sorry about this, folks. It usually doesn't do this. So
It's odd, yeah. Oh, there it is. It's
There you
okay
go.
now.
good.
Yeah.
Okay, so as I said before, the revenue sources are tuition fees and state support. So in the left-hand column, you'll see how we budgeted last year. In the beginning of the year, the campus gets together with enrollment management, folks from institutional research, the deans, and various vice presidents, and we look at what our best guess for enrollment is. Then we also apply some formulas as to the tuition rate for the different populations of students, whether they're in-state, out-of-state, undergrad, or graduate, and full and part-time. And we derive the revenue projection of $49,760,000. In addition, the state in the beginning of the year had pledged to give our campus $15.9 million in state support, almost $16 million. So our total revenue projection was $65.7 million. Then we build the expenditure side of that, the equation in the beginning of the year. All of the account holders for this fund get together. They tell us what the people are going to be in their accounts, how much temporary service they might need. Facilities helps us with the utility projection for the year. And then we have lined supplies, travel, contracts, and equipment. We fondly refer to it as OTPS, or other than personal service. So you might hear me slip into some jargon later, and I apologize for that. But when we built the expenditure side of the equation, we came up with a need of $68.8 million. So you can see the big red number below. We thought that we had a structural deficit of almost $3.1 million in the beginning of the year. Then COVID had its way with us, as it did with the rest of the world. And we saw some numbers change significantly from our projections. Most significantly, we saw that our tuition dollars were not exactly what we thought we would get. But President Christian said, we saw a decline in not just the new students, but the returning students because of COVID and the online instruction and everything that was going on in the world. We saw a drastic reduction in our tuition revenues. So we missed the mark by $3.3 million. In addition, the state was having its challenges, as we all know, and it came back and said, you know what, we need to shave some money off from SUNY. We're going to take a 5% reduction from the campuses, leaving us short in the state support line of almost $700,000. So all told, our revenues were short of our initial projections by $4 million. But the good news part of that is, well, it's good news and bad news. We were under significant spending constraints from the state. We had a hiring freeze for all positions, with the exception of health and safety positions or revenue generating positions. So we had to hold a lot of positions vacant when folks either left or retired. And we had a significant savings in our personal service line. In addition, a significant savings in the temporary service line. We didn't have to deliver as many courses as we thought. So our adjunct expenditures were reduced by about $1 million. We had a good utility year, mostly because there were a number of people that were either studying or working remotely. So our buildings were at less than full occupancy, and we garnered a lot of savings, particularly in electricity, a little bit of heating. So we saved $624,000, or didn't spend $624,000 of the budgeted utility line. And in addition, since a lot of people were not on campus and we had the spending constraints, we didn't spend nearly as much of the OTPS, or the non-personal service expenditure line, than we would have thought that we would. So not only were our revenues down by $4 million, our expenditures were down by $4 million. So lo and behold, our deficit for the year was actually pretty close to what we predicted. It just didn't come in the way that we predicted it. So we needed to use our reserve funds in an amount of about $2.7 million for all of last year. So given what the campus and what the world has been through, that's not too shabby. The one thing I do want to point out, though, that in our personal service line, there were some contractual raises that were held during the pandemic. Those actually did pay out, but they paid out over the summer and weren't attributed to this fiscal year. So next fiscal year will look a little bit different, but these retroactive raises normally would be accounted for in this year. And just to give a comparison, last fiscal year, or the last almost normal year of 1920, our total expenditures for the campus in this fund were $67.4 million. So again, you can see that those expenditure constraints plus the campus being largely remote in its operations last year saved in the expenditure line, just about $3 million there. So now we're going to fast forward to this year. And are you seeing the 21-22 slide?
Yep.
Very good. So this year, it's a little too early to give you any actual or any predictions of our actual line. So I'm just going to show you the budgeted line. For tuition and fees, we actually ratcheted down our tuition and fee prediction from last year because of the reasons that we spoke about before. Our retention is a little bit lower than it normally is. It's still excellent in most campuses' eyes, but lower than our usual great rates. And the state actually came back and said it was going to restore the 5% reduction that we saw last year. So our total revenue prediction in the beginning of the year was $63 million. One thing that I can share with you now is, as President Christian said, our enrollment is still lower than we expected. We're predicting that by the end of the year, we will be $2 million short of that prediction. On the expenditure side, I don't need to go through every line with you, but we said if we're back in full person, almost every 80% of our classes are seated now and only 20% online. Our residence halls are almost full, or almost as full as we wanted them to be, because we still had to keep one offline for quarantine and isolation students. So our resident population is significantly increased from last year, but still not up to our usual standards or usual occupancy levels. So we fully loaded the personnel service. You can see that went up from the initial budget from last year. That's primarily because of the contractual increases that are paying out this year that weren't in there last year. We put temporary service back up. Again, a little bit of an increase due to the increase in the rates for our temp employees. We kept utilities flat, and we had a little bit of a spike in the request for supplies, travel, contracts, and equipment. So unfortunately, we now have a structural deficit that has grown to $8.1 million. Again, as President Christian said, we are in better shape than some of our sister campuses, but we still have a significant structural deficit to address. Now for a little bit of good news. Stimulus packages for higher education were very generous last year. Our students received a total, or will be receiving a total, of $15.8 million through our financial aid office. In summer of 2020, we distributed $3.2 million or almost 3.3 through the Office of Financial Aid. Later on, in the beginning of spring 21, another $3.2 million, and we are poised to send $9.3 million out the door to our students in need. The financial aid office had to comply with some strict regulations as to who they could give the funds to. I won't pretend to know what all those regulations are, but they were primarily students impacted by COVID for the first two distributions. And the third distribution has a little bit more bandwidth for us to use some discretion in who we attribute those funds to. On the institutional side, we had an equal match plus some supplemental funds in summer of 2020. that we were told could go to replace some of the refunds that we offered or that we had to pay to the students in spring of 2020, primarily in res halls and athletic fees and a few other fees. Then the second distribution, or HERF2, as it's called in our circles, we saw an increase in the higher ed distributions. And so the campus enjoyed an $8 million contribution to our reserves. This pocket of money was also able to cover those refunds. For context, the refunds that we issued in spring of 2020 were over $6 million. So that first bucket of CARES money didn't quite cover those. So we used the second bucket to fully cover those. And in addition, those funds were allowed to be used for lost revenues. So we did see additional losses in the residence halls primarily last year, and some in tuition. Now we are again poised to see $10 million in federal stimulus money, but this money does come with additional restrictions. Of this $10 million, we are going to be spending at least 5% on mental health for our students. So Vice President Blaisdell and her staff are poised to put some programming together for our students to meet their mental health needs. It's an area of the campus that we already needed some assistance with, so this money is very much needed and appreciated. 22%, 22.5% of this funding should be used toward evidence-based practices to thwart the pandemic. So this can be anything from new filters in the buildings to IT resources that will enable us to deliver instruction remotely or hybridly. So we're looking at best practices for that and using it for some of the funding that we've already spent last year before this fund came about. Another 2.5% is going to assist the student portion of the CARES and HERF and ARP money. It's for outreach to those students to make sure that we're getting to the populations that need those funds the most. And then the last 70% is we are able to use to cover revenue losses. So we don't know exactly how much we are going to spend, but we are going to do everything we can to spend every single dollar of this much needed federal funding. Because if you'll look toward the bottom of your screen, the summary of our revenue losses, which isn't quite final, but it has all the big buckets in it, shows you that in total, the room rent that we lost through the pandemic up till now amounts to $17.5 million. Our fee revenue, again, primarily in the athletics realm, is almost $1.6 million, and our tuition losses were $3.3 million. We're not sure if we can count the state support, but I'm trying, and so that we can use all of the stimulus funding above. So our total revenue losses are in excess of $23 million, whereas our stimulus funding was just less than $22 million. So again, our hope is to use every bit of that federal American Rescue Plan and the supplemental funds, but we have a long way to go to prove the reporting and then to draw down the funding. So that, in a nutshell, is where we are. I will stop sharing my screen so that we can fully see each other. Oh, yeah.
Before you stop sharing your screen, could you pop back to slide number 3? There's a point there that I think important for the council to recognize. Look at that state in the middle under revenue, state support $15.994 million. If Michelle were giving this presentation in 2013, 8 years ago, that figure would be essentially the same.
Yes.
Even though we've had inflationary increases, we've had contractual salary increases, the state taxpayer support has been absolutely flat. So I think that's part of the advocacy that we need to work on with the state of New York.
Yes.
Well taken.
So with that, I thought that was an important point to share.
Okay. All right, so now we can see each other again. And in addition to that, we've seen flat tuition for the last couple of years. And former Governor Cuomo had, and the Board of Trustees, more importantly, had stated that they wanted to keep tuition flat for undergraduate in-state students for the next 3 years, which definitely adds a pinch to our pocketbook.
And Michelle, it might be worth adding that we don't negotiate our contractual increases at the campus level. That's all done at the state level. And yet the costs come to us.
Hence the gray hair that used to have color. Any questions?
No, but thank you very much. It just means we got to push our representatives to support the state university system like they're supposed to. And they take pride in it when it does well. And it's not inexpensive. And to be retracting on state support and flatlining tuition, there's only one place to go, and that's to push on the state. And that's what we have to do. And the state benefits from it because those educated students become taxpayers, and it's only long-term benefit. And the state has an unlimited horizon. So the investment in human capital, supporting the SUNY system and New Paltz in particular, will come back over and over again, infinitum. And does anybody have any questions? Anything they'd like to, Rob?
The foundation I know is raising money for scholarship. Are they able to raise any money for brick and mortar?
To the extent that, and I'll let Erica chime in as well, to the extent that they can raise lots of money and possibly have a named building, yes. They have contributed to especially some equipment in the past for Wooster Hall in our engineering labs. But brick and mortar is a heavy lift. Erica?
Yeah, I mean, nothing that makes a material difference, Ron. I would say, unfortunately, at this time, we don't have donors without level capacity. Probably the most attractive building on campus is something like our Engineering Innovation Hub, which could be named for, gosh, what do you say, Don? Probably around 5 to 7 million. But other than that, and then yes, we've named a couple of rooms and gotten a fair amount of donated equipment, and of course it's the Dorsky Museum. But otherwise, it doesn't go to brick and mortar. It tends to go to naming a room honorifically and then using those donated funds to support the programs that take place in those facilities rather than actually building the facilities.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and brick and mortar isn't really going to help student tuition or student costs. So the focus is scholarship, and but then again, that doesn't alleviate the reduction by the state. It just helps the students. Prices still keep going up. State support's flatlined. So, but the brick and mortar is apart from. You know, the donations generally aren't for brick and mortar. They'd be converted to scholarship and other support. Anything else? Well, I want to thank everybody. I know it's been a long meeting, I think an informative meeting, and I thank all of you. The next meeting is scheduled for November 17th at 3 o'clock. Hope to see you all then. Hope you're all healthy, well, and happy between now and then. And I want to thank you for giving your time, energy, and attention to the meeting and everybody who's participated. So thank you.
Thanks, Eli.
Thanks, everyone. Be well.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Night.
Bye.
Adjourn.
Bye.
Motion second. All in favor? Thank you.